Welcome back, folks. We got a great show for you today. We got
Yeah.
Fran Z, first time on camera. Last time she was just audio, so we got now a face with the name. And oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Fran, how's payroll been treating you?
Payroll's been good after the bankruptcy, which I'm
Oof,
actually still
I know you
doing
are. Of
stuff
course you are. Of
with
course.
that. It never
Hmm.
ends.
Yep.
I've been in my new position about 3 months, so
Congrats.
I'm now in the spot where I can start changing some things, some
Good.
best practices.
Right. For the better.
Good.
For the better.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Take some of theirs, take some of my past
Yes.
experience, put it all together.
There you go. Yeah, and and it's always tough with working with new teams in that case, and change
Mhm.
management. But I think you're doing a great job. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Always.
That's awesome. So Fran has gotten together some best practices for us today. Last time we talked, she just kept on spitting out these nuggets and sharing so much knowledge with us that we were like, wait a minute, how do we capture those best practices from you? So she put some time into it for us. She's going to share it with us. I'm going to give you the floor and you
Yes.
go ahead and walk us through. Walt, you got any questions? But my man, Walt, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm so caught up with Fran. What's
No,
up,
this is
Walt,
this this
man? How
this is
you
about
doing?
Fran, man. Like I'm
I
here,
know,
I'm
but I
excited.
know.
Appreciate you though. But Fran, I'm excited to learn from Fran today and have her walk us through and just share her knowledge with the payroll community. So thank you though.
Yeah, of
All
course, man.
right.
Can't forget you.
Well, thank you both so much, first off, for everything that you do for the payroll community.
Thank you.
As I said last time, I basically share, your link with everybody. I'm like, you want to
Oh,
know
thank you
payroll?
very much.
You
Oh my
listen to
God.
this.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you, Brad.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you
yeah,
so
That
much.
means everything to us. That's why that makes it all worth it for us.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm an It's About Payroll groupie, so.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's it. We've reached. That's it. We're rock stars now. That's it.
That's it. That's it. But yeah, it best practices are so important in getting the payroll process, because if you don't start out right, you're not going
Mhm.
to end right.
Facts.
So much of it is really auditing, and that's what everything comes down to. I mean, you can calculate a time card, you can enter it in, but if you don't audit it, it really doesn't matter. The pay isn't going to be right. Yeah, a lot of what I do in, I guess, the prep part of it, getting all of your backup together, making sure that, the first step, your employee change report. Some systems have them, some systems don't. So it's difficult. And who owns the entry, who owns the auditing?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Even though where I am now, we don't own the employee data part of it,
Right.
Mhm.
it's still going into my payroll that I'm
That's right.
producing.
That's right.
So I'm going to check everything. I'm going to make sure that the entry is right, that the decimals are in the right spot, that the taxes are set up correctly. So you want to basically start there. You want to start with your employee change report, for a better word, making sure that everything's set, and go through, because that's your launching pad. Uh, but also, getting payroll set, you need a checklist. What do I
Yes.
need to do from start to finish to get a payroll done?
Mhm.
Whether it be, what batches am I going to put in, who's checking it, who's entering it.
Yep.
Then you've also got the, what am I expecting? There are certain items that are only done once a month. Or if you've got a biweekly payroll and there are 3 paychecks in there, it's twice a month. So you want to make sure that on that third payroll that you're not getting those deductions out, or you're not getting those living allowance or car allowance posted. And the only way to remember that is with the checklist.
Yep.
And you can be as little or as specific in there. It all depends on your team.
Mhm.
Um, thing. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say audit and check back a lot today.
Yep. Data validation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like you definitely want that validation, because one thing that's wrong can actually mess up an entire payroll. And if you
That's right.
don't check it in the beginning, who knows what you're going to end up with. So that's what's very important, and making sure everybody's got their assigned duties to get it done. And it's not like the same person always has to audit. You want to mix it up so that everybody learns. It's, you always have your specialist, but you want to make sure that you share the knowledge. So everybody needs to do it. I mean, I came from a SOX audit background. So
SOC, what does that mean? Tell
oh,
folks
sorry.
that don't know what SOC. No, it's okay.
Sorry. Sarbanes-Oxley, back in, I guess it was the early 2000s, it came into play. And where I worked at the time, my department was the only one who didn't complain about it, because we already did that. We already crossed our T's and dotted our I's. We just had to add an extra signature to everything that we were doing. So for us, it was not a big deal.
Right.
Other departments, not so much. But that,
I'm sorry, and SOX is specifically for publicly traded companies.
Yeah,
Is that right?
for publicly traded. My last company was not publicly traded, but it didn't matter. I still brought that in.
That's right.
I made sure,
it's a
because
good standard to set. Yep.
Yeah, you want to make sure. You want to make sure you're doing it right.
Yep.
But going back with the checklist and the employee change reports, you want to make sure, are there rate changes in there? Are there retro calculations that are going to need to be done?
Yep.
Do you have new states that you're going to have to set up for tax purposes?
Yep.
In New York, you've got like New York City tax. You could work in New York City but not live there, so you don't have to pay that tax anymore. Thank goodness. In the 90s, that changed. There's also an employer tax that needs to get set up. It's an MTA tax, but you have to be within the MTA blueprint. So if you've got a location that's out of it, you're not going to pay it.
Really?
So yes, it was very, basically when it first came into play, it was like, okay, where does the MTA, where does the subway go? Where does Metro North go? Long Island Railroad.
Right.
And that's how we determined what we were doing there. So that is a big thing. Definitely took a while to get it into place as soon. Now it's standard practice.
Yep.
But it's very important when you're checking to make sure that you have all of that. Going in with the employee changes, do you pay out PTO for terminated employees?
That's right. Great call.
Making sure you calculate that. Is there a cap on it? Is it in the state that if your company doesn't pay it out, you have to pay it out anyway, like California? Do you also, if you are checking and you have a terminated employee, are they in an immediate pay state? You have to juggle that a little bit differently. An immediate pay state, there are, and I don't remember exactly how many at the moment.
Of course. No.
But like in California, if you are, and we kind of go back there because they have most of those rules. If you're terminated immediately, you've got to have your pay when you walk out the door. If you resign and give your notice, if it's, I believe it's under 2 weeks, it's 72 hours. If it's under, it's immediate, and you've got to pay everything out. So you need to make sure you have that plan in place. Some companies will have pay cards or checks. There are like pay card checks that they'll have at the locations where the payroll department will do all the calculations, get everything funded, and then it'll be written out by the location itself. So you need to have all of that plan in place, and that's working with finance and with HR and letting them understand the importance of notification. Back to a, sidebar, had a situation where we didn't get a notification, and a week after somebody was terminated, they called up and said, "Where's my check?" And we're like, "We didn't know you were terminated." Having to get all of that out, and within an hour, we had a check going FedEx to the gentleman the next day. So it's that communication, expressing the importance of it. So yeah, let's go back to payroll processing, as I used to say.
Yeah,
that's a good sidebar, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is some states, I don't know if it's Cali, but I know in one state, the longer you wait, you have to pay them a day.
Oh, great call out. That's right. There's a penalty. Yes. Oh my gosh, what a great call out.
And so many states are different. There are some states that are 5 business days, some that are 7.
Yeah.
Some are, 15 days or the next payroll processing.
Yeah.
So it's knowing what you have, and when you've got, let's say, a large layoff that's coming up, because companies have that, you need to go in and determine what's the best way to get it. And usually you just say, what's the earliest you need it? And everybody gets it then. It just makes it so much easier to process.
I like that.
Yeah, it's rough. But that kind of segues into the next, which is time and attendance.
Yes.
So I absolutely love time and attendance and the systems. Use one of the big box ones. And I've been using it for about 20 years in multiple jobs. And
oh wow, the same one?
Yeah.
That's lucky.
Yeah. So of course I have all my contacts when things go wrong.
So you're like expert beyond guru for that. Oh my gosh.
If people need to figure out how to do things, I'm like, just hold on. Let me go back. That's awesome. So yeah, I suck in whatever they want to tell me. I'm just going to take it all in and use it in the future, because that's what you need. So what I've learned along the way, so this particular time and attendance, there are things called quick navs. They're quick navigations where you can view. I create them so it'll show me all the different pay codes that are going to be processed in that payroll, and I'll export a group and compare it to what it pulls. Make sure that it's pulling all the data. Do my validate. Oh, definitely. Yep. That's so important. And 9 times out of 10, when they don't match up, it's because I forgot to put a pay code in there. So it's like, okay, let's add a new pay code and redo the audit. It's VLOOKUPs are my best friends.
Yeah, that's right.
That and concatenations. As long as you have those two in Excel, you're golden.
Pivots are important.
Yes. Pivots now. The old Excel pivots were not fun.
Oh, I don't even remember. I just started doing pivots in the last few years.
Pivots used to automatically default to count, not sum. And if you forgot to change it from sum to count, it
still does that. You gotta change it.
Somehow or another, mine defaults to sum now. I learned the hard way. It might
be version. It might be yeah.
Yeah, definitely learned the hard way how to do that.
Wow.
But you're checking in there. No, that's okay. I'm just trying to get what I have, because I can totally go off on tangents.
It's so easy with this stuff too. Let me tell you, you're giving me chills with the stuff that you talking. Like, it's just I'm taking notes literally.
Yeah.
I'm always available if you got questions. Don't you worry.
Yes.
But yeah, you want to go through with the time cards for reasonability for overtime. Yes, payroll is not responsible to make sure that it's accurate, because we're not there with them. We have people all over the country, so I'm not in every location to see what they work, but we know that people sometimes forget the AMs and the PMs, and all of a sudden you've got 12 extra hours on there. And so you're checking for reasonability, and then you'll reach out to the managers and just say, just want to make sure it's okay. Because 9 times out of 10, you're now correcting a time card, because based on the state that you're in, it's not as easy to recoup an overpayment.
That's right. That's
So
right.
certain states, you have to get it done in the next pay period. Other states, you have to get it done. You have to have written permission to do
That's
it.
mhm.
So it's what are you doing? And, you know, worst case scenario, can you get that direct deposit back before it hits the bank and then get a new one in there? Been there, done that.
Oh
Or,
yeah. Oh
you know,
yeah.
put
We
it
got it.
back, write a check. I'm sending it out FedEx.
Yep.
So, you know, so you want to make sure in a time and attendance system, you also want to make sure about missed punches. Because if you've got a missed punch, if your system's not set up to stop you from pulling the payroll, then somebody's going to be missing hours.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and what is that going to be the impact? It could impact somebody more than you know.
Yep.
So you want to make sure all those missing punches are taken care of. Some of the other things with time and attendance are holidays that come in. Certain companies have it set up where you need to work the day before and the day after. And if you don't have schedules in your time and attendance system, you don't know if they're scheduled or not. You have to assume, and you know how much we hate to assume, the manager is checking it. So again, you're checking for reasonability and doing the best that you can. Mistakes will still go through, but you need to do what you can to try and stop them before it happens.
Yep.
Yeah. So once you pull the payroll in, the next you're coming to is pay data batches. And I don't know what they call it now because a lot of places.
I was just gonna say what. Tell us what that means, right? Because I think paid data batch is very unique to our, vernacular because we've used the big box. What does that mean in general? Tell us.
In general, so if you've got special pay that has to go in, or even the time that's coming in, it's going into a batch, and it's a file. It's the information that you are looking at specific.
Got it.
And I am a huge importer. I love to import batches because what? I don't like to waste. Okay, I don't like to waste keystrokes. That's my whole thing. It's like if I could do it in a batch, let's get it done. So I'm constantly doing that. But some of the issues with batches is when you're doing your VLOOKUPs and you're bringing in the unique identifier per person, if somebody has the same name, well, if you don't match it up correctly, this person can get paid when it's supposed to be this person. So you're checking your pay data batch to make sure it's the correct file number, it's the correct name. I go down to also checking status.
Terminated active status?
Active, okay. Yes. I had a situation last year where I was given a file and they said, no, we matched it up, everybody's fine. And when it went in, there were two people with the same name and they used the wrong file number. And wow. So what ended up happening, luckily it was only updates for gift cards, so it's not terrible.
Right, it wasn't a whole check.
Right. So somebody didn't get the wrong money, but if we didn't do the validation, we would have had W-2s going out to incorrect employees.
Yep.
So that definitely runs into an issue. So you want to make sure and, take your little pen out and do the check marks. I print them old school that way. It's like I like to have my things printed next to each other, check all the boxes, stapled together, initial, and okay, it's there. So that's kind of where I go in. So you definitely want to review. It's take as much time as you need to audit your payroll before it goes out, because if you don't spend the time in the beginning, it's going to take you twice as long after to get it corrected. Once everything's in, there are certain payroll systems that allow you to run a preview. And back in the day, that didn't exist. So you were previewing your payroll once you got it back, and it was that was
You get it back early, so like, oh wait, we could fix this because it hasn't hit
Yeah.
yet, and we might be able
Yep.
to. Oh man, I remember
Oh
that.
yeah.
I remember
I
that. Oh
yeah.
gosh, we're
I
dating
worked.
ourselves though.
Oh, I know. I worked for a company in the early 2000s that we had 14,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and we had about 14 people in the payroll department. Payroll admins, and the payroll would come in. You're like checking your register and like going page by page, making sure everything's okay.
Wow.
Especially like with benefits at the end of the quarter, because
Oh,
you can't refund
yep.
benefits from one quarter in the next
Mm-hmm.
without doing an amendment.
Prior year, yep.
So it's like so I love previews and totally utilize them. But you're when you get your preview, you need to check to make sure, well, did my payroll go up $500,000? Did it go down? What are you expecting to see? My guideline has always been 10% greater than or less than the previous payroll.
Okay.
Unless you get exceptions in.
Or unless your company's more strict. We did 5% for a while, right? Well, you still do 5%. Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, no,
we were like, hey, whoa, we got to make sure.
Yeah, you're going in there, and I go down, so you get your total gross, but then I go down, and it's based on the number of pay groups you have or companies that you have that you're paying. I'll go by department or by pay code, and then drill down even more. Had a situation where I worked for a company that every year they would run specials in like October, November to get ready for the new year. So the overtime was usually 20% higher.
Oh, wow.
So I after the first year I had that, I worked it out with the manager in the area to say, okay, you're going to tell me what I'm expecting so that I'm not wasting time, but utilizing time in one area that I could put it towards somewhere else. And and of course, then you put notes on that total sheet to say, okay, this happened here, or this was there, or in New York, it was snow and you had to close the building.
Yep.
So you're putting all of that in so you can look at it. And that company, I was there for about 4 years. So I knew every year this month, I was going to have extremely high overtime.
Yep.
And I knew what to expect. But of course, I would always reach out and say, is it still coming up?
Right.
So
trust but verify. Trust but verify. That's right.
Definitely.
That's right.
But that's so important because again, sometimes it's by the department, sometimes it's as drilled down as the actual pay code.
That's right.
So you need to make sure what you have there.
And it depends on your company too, right? It's like, every company has a different threshold for things, right? Because we use 5, Fran uses 10, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just whatever is working for you guys, right? And you said something that I just wanted to point out because me and Walt talk about it all the time. It's like you never really know a company until you've been like almost a full 12 to 24 month cycle, depending on when you started. So you learn what the expectation, the behaviors are, and you'll learn what to expect the next year. So that was a really good call out. I'm sorry.
It's the patterns. It's knowing what you're looking
trends, at. What's trending?
Yes.
What's going to trend exactly.
And it's definitely, it's key because you don't panic when all of a sudden you see something that's so much higher. You're like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, that's what's going on now.
That's what's going on. Exactly.
So it I don't know. It definitely takes on a life of itself when you're auditing. It's like
it's behaviors. I call it behaviors, and it's probably behaviors is not the right word, but that's what I call it. Like when you know that retail bunch is going to spike in October, it's an employee behavior, group behavior type of thing, and when you look at the pay, I know. Oh yeah, that's right. These guys do overtime every year this time. And you can prep the team. Hey folks, expect, ABC company over here, they're going to spike.
Oh, definitely. definitely. They make us, I guess, a little less challenged when it comes to that, to know what you're expecting. Other things that I like to check while I'm doing the payroll is I audit benefits.
Okay.
One company that I was in, we actually used to pull a report and make sure that your total benefits that were coming out of the payroll, plus the unused deductions, which are the deductions that you're unable to withhold because they're not making enough money, or they're on a leave of absence, or whatever is happening, or additional benefits because they weren't here and now you're taking the retro benefits out. So I want to do it there because, again, going back to if it's you're crossing quarters, it's not as easy to fix.
Right.
Yeah, because you're dealing with what's pre-tax, what's after tax. So you want to check it there. It definitely helps. I'm starting to work on that now because it's going to, again, save you in the long run. The most important when it comes to benefits actually is the beginning of the year when all of those deduction amounts change.
Reset. That's right.
Are we looking at this year's deductions or last year's deductions? Or in some cases, are we looking at both because the old ones didn't end and the new ones started?
Yes. Yes.
See, been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Yep.
Yes, and that's kind of where the teamwork with the other departments come into play.
That's right.
Because if you don't have that relationship with HR and benefits, you can't get your tools that you need to do your job. Even though theoretically it's not part of my job, but it is. Because whatever is produced in payroll, I'm responsible for. My team is responsible for.
That's right.
Because, the employee out on the street, they're not going to say, oh, well, HR did something. They're going to go,
we're calling
payroll.
Payroll. My check is messed up. I'm calling payroll. Doesn't matter whose fault it is, right? We've said it so many times. It starts with payroll, and that's our opportunity to be a great professional and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you out, even though we know it's not
Exactly. And the other thing, as little as it is I've been so many places where they're like, well, HR did it or this one did it. It's like, we'll get it fixed. We'll work together. In my notes that I sent you, my bottom line there, which I say it all the time, teamwork makes the dream work, and it's within your department. It's who you partner with as well, because nobody sees us. Really, nobody's supposed to know who payroll is.
That's right. They can payroll ninjas. We're in the background.
Exactly. But then when they find out, ooh, you're from payroll.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes, it's so true.
Sometimes it's good. It's like it's nice. Yeah. But that's primarily the payroll process itself for best practices, and making sure you go back and everything on your checklist has been checked off. And if it's not checked off, why? Is it it doesn't apply to the payroll, but it's all there.
Documentation.
That's the key to everything. I had an old manager, a former manager, who she would create documentation and taught me how to create documentation. That now, unless you're from this area, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. It's an old grocery store called Wallbounds. And it used to be.
I used to work. That was my first job.
Okay, so we used to say anybody walking in from Wallbounds, they can do it from start to finish. They may not know what they're doing or why they're doing, but they know all the steps of how to do it. And I would have documentation, and I would do like bonus runs or PTO payouts at the end of every year. And I was with this company for 13 years. And it didn't matter. Every year I pull out the documentation, I do it. Most of the time I never even opened it, but it was there. and it was the same steps every year to get it done, but you had your documentation.
That's awesome.
I always say, if I win lotto and I'm gone,
That's right.
I always look at the positive.
Yep.
You want to make sure that everything is still done correctly.
Yep. And I'm so glad you said that, because anybody that I work with, Walter can tell you, when me and Walter start, first thing I told him was like, hey, I'm going to train you to take my job.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what is this? This guy's bugging out, but that's how you have to do it. It's plug and play, right? You got to be able to hey, you got to do this job now. Here's how you do it. Plug and play. And sometimes it makes teams nervous, but hoarding the work, you being the only one that knows how to do something, is not job security, right? Because if I walk into that team and that's the behavior, guess what? I'm going to need to reshuffle things. You're going to get, it's going to be upheaval, because we have to have that SOP, standard operating procedures. We have to have your documentation. You have to be able to, just like you said, they may not know exactly what they're doing, but they're going to get through the whole process because the documentation is flawless. It's great.
It is the key. It has helped me throughout the years from,
right.
I haven't had that many jobs, but whatever I've had, they're with me. My pay data batch imports, they come along with me, and it tells me how to import. Luckily, I'm with the same big box most of the time.
That's super. No, you've been blessed in that manner. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
yes.
You've been able to become a guru.
So,
that's why you're at Guru Level. I'm like in awe of you right now, for sure. So, yeah. Thank you for sharing.
That's what 30 plus years does for you. It's like, but it's great, and you learn as you go. Some of the other best practices outside of the regular process has to do with quarterly audits. You want to make sure, because if you are out of balance after Q1, how are you going to get your W-2s done at the end of the year?
Yep.
I will go through, and I'm going to grab my wage and tax registers, my preview W-2s, and I'm not sure what they're called in all the companies, but where I am, they're master controls. And they have certain items that you're going to balance across the board to make sure everything goes down and that you're going to balance. Because nobody January 5th wants to go, oh my gosh, I'm out of balance.
Yep.
Where is that? What
isn't?
Yep. And so if you're not set up correctly in the beginning, it's just going to flow down. Because of with the MTA tax that I mentioned earlier and local taxes, I put in quarterly tax audits where I'm making sure that if this is where you live and work, this is how you're set up in taxes, and make whatever corrections you need to make. Because honestly, it's like come April 15th, you don't want to get that phone call from the employee saying you taxed me wrong. Yes, it is the employee's responsibility to look at their paycheck.
Yep. They have onus for sure.
But it's still got to come back to us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So we want to make sure, and all of these audits that can be very tedious, it just saves you so much headache down the road.
Yeah.
And that's a big plus, is getting those audits in when you have the downtime. Means that you're not going to be stressing and struggling when you have no time to get it done. It's it's the preparation is definitely the key.
We were just talking about being prepared, and the opposite. If you're not being prepared and you're being reactionary, you do a lot of repairing and fixing because the lack of the prep broke things.
Yes. And the key though is to learn from your mistakes, because we all make them.
Yep.
And so much of what I have learned over the years is from mistakes that were made earlier, whether they be mine or somebody else's. If you can't learn from it, then there's a problem. Every mistake happens for a reason, and everything can be fixed. You just need to make sure that you do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I share my knowledge with wherever I go. I want to share. I'm like, but I also want everybody to share with me
Yep. Because yeah,
because
we still have stuff to learn. Nobody knows everything in payroll. Are you kidding me?
oh
It's
no.
too vast. There's no way. And there's things that you've done in industry that I've never done and vice versa. You know, so it's just a we need that connection, that community to start sharing the knowledge, to your point, because it's too much. There's so much of it. You know, you made me
Oh,
think about a book that me and Walt read through, Principles by Ray Dalio or Diallo. And he talks about
okay.
radical transparency and you know, radical honesty. And one of the things that he championed in his company was actually documenting the mistakes,
Hmm.
bringing them to everybody's, knowledge, like really talking about it and correcting from there. He actually penalized, and again, like if you didn't bring a mistake, oh, they caught it and you didn't report it, that was the problem. Like, no, you're not going to be reprimanded, or no, we need to learn from this mistake as a whole, instead of hiding it and fixing it in a silo, and then
Yep.
you never learn from that experience. But I think folks are so like they're scared of that. They're like, oh, wait a minute, what do you mean I should raise my hand when I make a mistake and tell
Hmm.
everybody? That is like counter to what we've learned as
Yeah.
humans, growing up. So it's that, but it's so true, and it's so true to payroll. And I think that's
Hmm.
why we connected with this book so much, because it translated so much into our work that it really made a difference. When you document these issues, you can learn and build from them. They're not to punish, it's to learn and build. So
It's
thank
it
you for
it's
that.
oh, uh, so on a little sidebar. When I first started doing payroll, I was probably doing about 3 or 4 years solely payroll. I was working in the entertainment industry, and there was a very, very big mistake on a very, very popular person's name.
Oof.
And it created a negative check. Now we know there's never such a thing as a
Yeah,
negative check, but
right.
that's what it created. And I'm like, okay, this is what happened. And it back then you didn't have the same technology you have
Right.
now. I really feel old. But it was like, okay, we identified it. Here are my solutions to rectify it. But now I have to call the production company.
Oh,
And everybody was, as I was walking in to make that phone call, they're like, hey, it's been nice knowing you.
oh,
I, I went in, I called, and especially because the person who was working on it was very tough. And I called and I said, listen, this is what happened. This is why it happened. But here are the 3 options we have to correct it.
right.
And her response was like, okay, thanks for calling. Do option 3. And I came out. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. And everyone's like, wait, you still have
You
a
didn't get
job?
fired?
And I'm not trying to hide behind
That's
something.
right.
You need to be upfront,
You
because if
have
I
to be.
tried to hide that, oh my gosh,
That's worse. Yeah.
and all it was just, it wasn't checking the taxes that were set up before the payroll was processed.
There you go.
That was the whole problem.
Yep.
But I'm like, but this is what it is. And I mean, obviously that created a huge foundation with my relationship with that particular production company.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's
Yep.
like, it's like,
That's
but
awesome.
here's the
Yeah.
solution.
That's right. That's right.
So that's key.
I learned
And
early on, it's not about the mistake, it's about the solution.
Yeah.
exactly. And you learn from your mistakes, because guess
Yeah.
what? That never, ever,
Happen.
ever happened to me again.
Ever again. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
There was one more item that I wanted to just
Yep.
touch on,
No, I'm with you.
and that has to do with file saving. Your documentation. Now
Mhm.
everything is electronic files.
Mhm.
It's how you set up those shared folders
Yep.
so that everybody understands what goes where.
Yep.
And it's not like you have to do what I say. Let's all get together. Are
Right.
we breaking it down by year, then going down to pay period, or by company code and pay period?
Mhm.
depending on what you have,
Mm-hmm.
so that this way, if somebody asks you a question about what happened in week 3, you can just go to week 3
Boom.
and everything's there and you
Yep.
know what happened.
Yep.
Or if you want to go back and you look at a pay stub of somebody of where a change happened, you can go right back and see what's the backup for that payroll.
Yep.
What do we have? Whether, it just be your pay data batches or any notes or any emails. And I mean, people just spread things all over. They're so into, okay, we need to make something for files over here, something for taxes over here. I'm like,
No.
where am I
No.
looking for it?
Yep.
So, but everybody has to be on the same page. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just say, we're going to do it this way.
You got to make it intuitive,
sense.
right? It has to
Yes.
be. It has to be intuitive. How? And again, how would you tell somebody? Build it like you're going to explain it to somebody new that's coming in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, go find this for me.
Yes.
Build it like that so that they know they can be. It's you know what I mean. But yeah,
Yep.
it's a huge call out because it's an easy oversight, and so often our files get so like, oh, they're all spread out. And I would even throw another one in there as don't trust your system alone, because all the systems we have, they have the files saved for us. But guess what? What happens if you move systems? Now, where's your reports? Where's your backup? Is it only on their cloud? Because guess what? They're going to charge you a mint to get that information, all of it, which you could have been saving all along the way, and save your company that money. So it should have redundancies. It should be on your vendor, but it also should be on your share drive. And you should ask IT if your share drive has a redundancy, and making sure that is copied over on a regular basis. So
that's what I need to check now.
Yep.
I don't know if I've got that. I'm assuming I do, but you know what happens when you assume.
So yeah, and I wanted to give you a call out. You said you like paper and you scan and make. What would do you scan that back in after you're done?
Yes.
Oh, so no call out for you. There you go. Confirming. That's what I'm talking about. I love it.
Started doing that at the company I was in right before the pandemic hit.
Wow. See,
So
that sixth sense just did it for you. Like the spidey sense just.
Wow. Well, because for SOX audits, they're like they would want certain things, and you don't want to go and have to grab the paper from the file.
And they literally want to see the ticks and ties on the paper. I've had auditors say, "Oh, good, you're ticking, you're checking it off on the paper." They're like, "Great, this is great." I was like, "What the heck? Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, it's like, but that's just I need to do that to know that it was done. What I do have to give a major praise to where I was when the pandemic hit. We went in 3 days, going from completely paper-driven payrolls to completely electronic, online backup. We utilized, we were able to change everything, made sure everybody had the right Adobe so that they can edit and file. So you can put your check marks in there and signatures. And
that's awesome.
And now it's like, I don't want to go back to just always the paper, to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, but you'll take it and then you scan it up there so you have everything.
That's right.
And it's all there. That was huge. Did not skip a beat for that first payroll after it hit.
Preparation. So, that's what preparation is about.
Yeah, and found out that on iPhones because then you had to leave with everything. There's a little scan.
Yes.
In the notes where you can scan it, so whatever wasn't scanned at the office, everybody scanned.
Wow. Hey, that works. Yeah. iPhone solved a huge problem for us when they first came out. I was at a staffing agency and folks had problems getting us the timesheets. They were like scanning them. No, not scanning. They were faxing. They were trying to fax it in, and we were like, we didn't get the fax. And it was my payroll coordinator at the time that really figured. He's like, wait a minute, smartphone, can you take a picture of it and send it? That was it. He changed. He improved the process just with that little thing. Take a picture. I was like, dude, brilliant. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and boom. And that was it. That solved it. That was it was amazing. So yeah, little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We're problem solvers. That's the thing. Payroll people, we want to solve some
Yes.
problems. You got to solve problems.
We're superheroes.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You are definitely our superhero, Fran, for sure. For sure. Thank you again.
It's that teamwork. Oh, you're very welcome. It's
been amazing. Did you cover everything you wanted to cover? I feel like you covered.
I think I did.
Yeah,
I definitely think I did. Of course, there's so many other things because all these, processes, improvements, documentation, they're all living and breathing. And that's what everybody has to remember, is that just because it's in black and white, like on the page, doesn't mean that it's set in stone. It can change. You have to be able to evolve and make changes as they come around, because it's like, yes, back in the old days we did this, but
now we need to update
changing. Yeah. and that's everybody. It's like, just I tell everybody, listen, this is the way that I do it. This is the way it works for me. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for you the same way. Doesn't mean it's the best way. So by all means, give me your input. Let's put it into place, because you're going to teach me something and I'm going to be like, oh my God. I mean,
that's right.
That's right. The little convert to numbers in Excel, like when you have the.
Yep.
So somebody showed me how to do that. I was like,
change your life. Right? Yeah.
Totally.
Little things. Yeah. Yep. Walt teaches me stuff like that with Excel, especially. He'll be like, oh, Brian, do this, that. And I'm like, oh, snap.
Okay. Thank you. So now I have my new contact when I have an Excel question. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, Walt's good. Yeah. He's the one that taught me how to format. Little things that changed the way I worked. You know what I mean? So, and that's, again, back to the sharing community of the knowledge, and don't hold it in. You got to share it. For me, if I learned and read early on, if you're not sharing the knowledge, then it's not worth it, right? So that's amazing. I mean, Fran, I have 3 pages of notes here of things that you said. I mean,
you need to put this in a training.
Yep. Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe of you, Fran. Thank you so much. Yeah, for real.
Thank you.
I hope y'all taking notes, because if there's any new payroll people that have listened to this show, Fran has just given you free game, free knowledge, right? And I hope you enjoy it, and everyone, and well, any closing remarks, and right? I mean, how do you follow Fran, really? Like, there's not much to say. Thank you so much. I hope you come back again. We'll figure out other things to come and have you back, because
I'm not doing too much more traveling. Okay. So,
really? Oh my God. Since the last time we had Fran on, she's been like traveling the world, and we're like, Fran, holy crap. I'm like, hey, this recording has been like months in the making, because she's just been a globetrotter. So, but hey, we're happy to wait for you. It's well worth the wait. Thank you so much for this. I mean, I'm going to have a ton of follow-up, because I have been writing notes down and made me think of a ton of things, and we hope to have you back again, of course. And you actually, the episode that drops today is overtime, and it's like you couldn't have possibly heard it. You didn't hear it. It hasn't out, but you said things on that we talked about. I was like, wait, is that show out already? No, it comes out today. So,
I'm waiting for my notification to drop that it's ready. So
cool. Yep, you'll get it for sure. And we'll leave it at that, folks. I mean, thank you so much, Fran, for being a part of the show, for being a friend of the show, and we're here. We are, because folks like you just supporting. You've given us incredible validation that what we're doing is helpful and it's meaningful, and and for that we are just cranking it up and doing a ton of more stuff. And thank you, everybody, for reaching out. Walt, thank you, my brother. All good. Fran, again, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for getting out here early after you've globetrotted, last night, and you're only on a few hours of sleep. I mean, I can't. Oh my gosh,
She's really a
trying to be
superstar.
you. You're trying to be you. Exactly. We're trying to grow up and be like you for real. Our superhero, our superstar. Fran, enjoy the day. We'll talk to you soon.
You
Thank you, folks, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right.